Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Sunday stream. How am I looking? I think it's okay. Anyway, let me know if you cannot see or hear me properly. There is a 20-second delay in case you didn't know, due to sort of streaming and all of that kind of stuff. So bear that in mind if you think I haven't answered your question promptly. Good to see a whole bunch of people. Hi to the regulars, Rocket, Arvero, Karu, how are you, man? Let me pop out the chat. I titled this stream earlier, Am I Gay? As a jump-off question that I've been asked once or twice in my life. And just as a way to start the questions, the Q&A that I'll be answering today. But there are a couple of really interesting ones, more interesting than that I'll get into. Hence why I altered today's stream title to be Why I Let Her Move In With Me. And I thought that might be edifying to people to understand the process I went through and what you might be able to glean from that in terms of your own process of dating, whether or not you want to move in with someone, the choices you make and the choices you don't make. Are you being sensible as you can to get what you want? So, first of all, am I gay? No. And I'll explain that in a second. I'm already hearing Roman and a whole bunch of other guys say, well, how do you know if you haven't tried it? There's a lot of things I haven't tried that I trust myself enough to know. But let me give you some context first as I pop out the chat here. I really enjoy, probably one of my favorite types of music is electronic EDM soundtracks and things like that. But when I was younger, when I went clubbing, I didn't go to rock bands and things like that. I appreciate rock music, but I went to raves, progressive trance, techno. I love the music. The music was fantastic to me. The crowd, you know, it was a circus there. It was a lot of fun, right? You just see everything, but it wasn't my kind of people that I would necessarily hang out with during the day. But all kinds of people go there because they love that kind of music. A lot of people went there for other reasons beside the music. They didn't care. So, you know, like, you know, the illegal kind of reasons. I remember talking to a guy I frequented at one of these venues, and they basically sleepwalked in their day job through the week, and they lived for the Saturday night. That's the only time they lived, when they would take copious amounts of you know what and who knows what, and they felt alive, and then they would crash on Sunday and go back to work and tolerate Monday to Friday, just anticipating the Saturday night. Anyway, pop out the stream and I'll put the live chat on. Okay. Now, if you would like to ask me a question during the stream, I'll answer the questions left in the community tab, and I'll be posting, I think I'll do that because there was a few interesting questions. After today's stream through the week, I'll post a call out for questions, sensible ones or topics that you guys would like me either to expand on that I've already talked about in previous videos and streams, or ones that I've just glossed over maybe, or new ones you would like my opinion on. And the best ones I'll talk about on the weekend stream. I think that'll be a good thing to do. And I'll look at getting a guest or two during the streams as well. It might be something interesting for you guys and gals out there. I've got to stop saying so often. If you would like to ask me a question during the stream, then drop 3 emojis, smiley faces, or yellow circles, something like that. 3 yellow circles, 3 yellow something that I can see before your question or comment in the stream. And I will do my best to take a look at it. And I'll completely ignore it if it's something ridiculous or childish. Okay. So, right off the bat, am I gay? No. And in case it wasn't obvious. But I remember I would get the, usually from gay guys in the clubs and trainees saying, well, how do you know if you haven't tried it, sweetheart? And the best response, not that I ever wanted to try it, but it was nothing attractive. Like, you, from your base nature, you kind of know what turns you on and what doesn't. I remember when a gay guy used to put his hand on his shoulder and come on to me, it would feel like someone walked over my grave. It felt like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It's very different from when your pals in basketball tap you on the ass or put their arm around you. That's very different. And believe me, I knew just very instinctually and intrinsically that no, respect guys, but I'm not one of you. Anyway, answered that first question. Now, and the reason why I thought, not just as a fun question and response, it's actually to help you know a broader question. That's a very primal one. Your biology lets you know whether you're into something or you're not. And I hope it does, because I think a lot of those people are experimenting because they just want a social group. They know they want friends. They don't like being alone. And as long as people accept them and they don't ridicule them, people think, well, I'll try it on. I'll try it out. It's like trying steak. If you've never tried steak before, if you don't like it, you won't have it again. But if you develop a social group in a certain area, you tend to imbibe their predilections and things like that, whether or not you are like innately to your core part of the people in that group in the way they do, in the way they live it, in the way they believe. You are a tourist in that group simply because you don't want to be alone, or you found people that are tolerable or likable or better than the arsehole friends you had in high school and your family and stuff like that. It's better than what you had. But sometimes better than your ex or better than your past isn't a good reason to commit to that group or that person, or the person you decide, I'm going to marry this person or have kids with them because she wasn't my train wreck psycho ex. Being better than shit isn't a reason to commit to shit. So the reason I, tongue in cheek, pose the question, am I gay? It's a way to kind of know who you are and the importance of knowing who you are and who you are not. And I think it's very important. And it's important when you look at the more sophisticated way of knowing who you're picking and who's right for you. This is the important part of my opening fun question of am I gay, is like knowing what I'm not. Some things you need to try. Some things you don't. You believe and you trust in who you are. You trust that when you're with someone who's wrong for you, you walk on eggshells and you don't like who you are. You don't like the mask you have to play. Recently, I think it was T-Dog or someone who said on the previous stream that, it wasn't T-Dog, who was it? Mr. something. I apologize. But he said, and it's a very short, simple point, but it's a very important one. He said, I didn't like myself online dating. And he was referring to walking and quacking like a duck and what he had to tolerate and the mask he had to put on and the hoops he had to jump through. And it's almost like you formally have to present yourself in such a way like you're on a job interview. You can't just show up as you with another person, your armor down, and seeing if the two of you can meet as friends, as people with similar values. Call me crazy. Is that such a ridiculous notion? So I think it's a very important thing to consider. So again, if you would like to ask me a question, put 3 yellow emojis before your question, like that, and I will do my best to answer them. Let me see if there's any at the moment that I can read out before I get into the comments left in the comment section. Vero asked the question, although not sure what to make of it. He said, my ex-wife asked me that question once. You know, this question. Was it, am I gay, or why did you move in with her? Can you clarify that, Vero? She asked me that question. I didn't dare to tell her she wasn't attractive at this moment. As in, are you making fun she wasn't attractive, or she wasn't attractive as a partner? You couldn't sort of, you weren't committing to it. Yeah. Can you just clarify what you asked, Vero? I should have probably read the question before, eh? Okay. So, the question I asked, no, rather the answers and the questions you guys were asking me, as I posted a call out. I posted a call out this week for questions you would want to ask me during this stream. Namely this. And let me have a look at some of them. Jordan. He said, yes, I'd like your thoughts. Do you think there is a reasonable amount of time to remain in an unfulfilling position, specifically a job, in order to, quote unquote, do your time and improve in the future? Or is it any amount of time in an unfulfilling scenario too much time and a waste of precious time? I would side with the latter. And I think you kind of know, since you posed the question. Do you have a time frame and plan? Are you just staying in this job or position? Are you just dating casually short term, keeping your options open, and you're not wanting a relationship? Or are you fooling yourself, pretending that you're looking for something serious until it falls out of the sky, while you keep dating casually, having fun, being non-committal, and pushing everyone away? Are you dating intentionally with the target of serious because you are looking for good qualities and values in a person? Or are you just having fun and you're seeing what accident will happen as you sort of jerk around with like a number of women and don't take anything very seriously? If whatever you take seriously, whether it's your hobby or your relationship, whatever you take seriously, you'll get serious results. Whatever you take professionally, you'll get professional consequences. If you treat things like a hobby, or sort of just casual, don't give a crap, you'll get the results of hobby, casual, don't give a crap. If you are intentionally turning up as a writer and you form a professional habit, if you want to turn up as an athlete and take your health seriously, you'll get serious results. You'll get much more serious results than I'll walk or exercise when I feel like it. I'll write when I feel like it. I'll get serious when I feel like it. Do you know what I'm saying? So there is a lot of truth to that. So I would say, don't waste your time, because I know that what we can convince ourselves of is that I'm perfecting things. I'm waiting for the right camera before I shoot my first video. I am saving up just this amount of money before I quit. And then you save that money and you say just a bit more because you look for an excuse, like, oh, the economy's going bad, let me just stay in this job a bit more. Or you look for any fear excuse, even if it's not that rational, just to make you be ultra perfect. One day, as Tom Cruise's character in Collateral said, one day becomes never. You never pull the trigger and do what you want to do. You never reach the finish line of changing your life for the better. At some point, Are you going to wait for your life to get so bad that you break and then you're forced to make the right decision? Or do you make the right decision where you save 2, 5, 10, 15 years before it took you to break? That takes a lot of honest courage to do. I would say if you've got a plan and you honestly know you're going to pull the trigger at a certain rational point and you're not just making excuses, I would say don't stay any longer in somewhere you don't want to be. The biggest regret for myself and most guys is we stayed in relationships, in jobs, in places, with friends, wasting our time on projects and things that never went anywhere, but they were comfortably habitual. You know, you turn up to the shed and you tinker with nothing that goes nowhere. Seasons come in life, you know, your spring, summer, autumn, winter, they don't return. If you're in your autumn years and you're still Groundhog Daying your summer and spring years, like a lot of people who get Botox, they're in their 40s and they're still trying to look effable and clubbing and trying to stay on the carousel for much. Like, do what you want. Again, it's your life. I don't care. Anyway, I hope that answered that question. Jordan? Donna asked a very interesting question that I don't like answering personal questions unless the topic itself would be edifying to other people. And that's why I renamed this stream to Donna's question. And Donna says, let me put my glasses on so I don't screw up my vision any more than it is already. She says she's going to miss the stream, but she'll catch it later. She says, my question is, with all the manosphere knowledge that you have, human, how long did you vet the missus before she shacked up with you? If you're not Australian, Donna's asking, how long did I vet my woman before I moved in with her or she moved in with me? She continues, also, what made you think that she was someone you wanted full-time in your place? I'm asking for educational purposes as it might happen to one of our mates in the chat. Good question. Initially, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to answer that, simply because I'm interested in concepts and ideas. I don't want to be an open wound, or I don't want, this isn't you looking at my PIN number and my diary and, you know, being a peeping Tom into my life. But if I can help with some sort of lessons I've learned, I will. And I think this is a very interesting question. So if you would like to know anything I've learned in my private life, more than welcome. Some questions, if they're too personal, I'm just not going to answer them, or I may answer them later if I feel like it. But let me tell you the process that I met my woman. I think she's listening to this stream right now. She's probably smiling if I know her. I started talking to her. She made contact with me just asking a question about one of my videos on Instagram, one of my posts. And it was just a simple, colloquial, like a platonic question about an old video. If memory serves me, the video she was asking a question about was all or nothing love. It was about when you either can't give more than 50% or your partner's asking you to give close to 100% in the relationship. And it's very unfair. And how you've got a rude, selfish partner that expects you to give almost everything and they barely need to give anything, and that you should be grateful that you have the privilege of giving almost 100%. You know, most of the time it's women. If you ask anything of them, that you should be grateful for them even getting you a glass of water, given you're in the presence of them. Basically, they act like a celebrity and you're a fan. And the video was about that. It's the all or nothing love. And they expect you to give everything. And I think in the video I said that women I was having a hard time with, and I was pushing back on and saying, hey, you know, you're being unfair. You're asking for too much. You don't want to do anything for me, but I do a lot more for you. And every time I ask for anything, the smallest thing, you push back and you try and shame me for asking anything. I said, I do all of this for you. What do you do for me? And most of the women in the past couldn't name anything, because I said, let's take the bedroom out of the equation. What do you do for me that's not a benefit for you? What do you do just because you enjoy doing something for me or complimenting me or getting me I don't know, a can of Pepsi or something tiny and inconsequential that, you know, I'm thinking, well, you just thought of me, and that's all it was. And I'll tell you, most of them couldn't think of a thing beyond the bedroom that they did. One or two of them cooked, which was great, but we're also both eating. But what do you do just for me? Like, I will drive my woman everywhere. I'll get her little things. I'm thinking of her. I like doing things for a person. It makes me feel good. I like the person, not what the person does for me. And as the cliche goes, most women don't love men. Almost all of them, they don't love men. They love how men make them feel, and especially what men do for them and how that doing makes them feel good and makes them feel special. I think it was, who was it? It was Bass, FCZ. He said something fairly astute. He said, if you want to sum it down to one word, women just want to be made to feel special. You want woman's attention. You want her to make it feel good around you. Make her feel special. They do it in pickup where they go ask her questions about herself, because women like talking about themselves. They feel special. Again, I'm not saying all, but generally, as an autopilot animal that's not self-reflective and responsible, human beings are kind of very similar in their instincts and their reactions and what they respond to. Most people are just selfish and use other people, and women especially, they love themselves through men. They don't actually love men. So, ooh, I love my husband or my partner. What do you love about him? Oh, the way he makes me feel. He's a great father. He's a great this. He's a great provider. He took me here. He did this. Yeah, it's like it's everything he does and provides for you. But do you like him as a person? I'm not hearing any values, sweetheart. I'm not hearing he's a kind person. He's really respectful. He's like, there's no values coming out of your mouth. It's all what he does for you, how you're special. So basically you're saying you love yourself through him. He's reflecting how special you are. That's what you love. I love the mirror that he is of me. Anyway, let's get back to the Donna's question. How did I know through all my manosphere knowledge and all my past reflection, you know, chewing on all these things, these videos I've made over the years for you guys, they've really been for me. They've been the video diary to try and explain very important speed bumps I kept tripping over and things that didn't make sense between me and the women I went out with. They said one thing, they did another. And so out of all of this, how did I know that I wanted to move in with my woman? And I'll give you the chronology, which will help better explain. Given all this knowledge, which I've always said, the manosphere knowledge is great. Learn as much as you can objectively about women, relationships, nature. But then when you go on a date, that woman becomes Jane or Mary or whoever that happens to be a woman. So what you're insisting on and what you have to judge now is the individual. Mary, who happens to be a woman. Before it's Mary on a date, before you've chosen, hopefully well, given her profile and the chit-chat you've had, and vetting her as much as you can before the date, they become a person that you have to judge a yes or a no to. Do you commit to them if you're so inclined, if you're looking for long-term like I was? What stands out with her above all the rest? What will make you stop, get off the carousel, and be very, very happy with one person? Why are you committing to them? First, it comes with knowing who you are and what you want. That's why I pose the am I gay question. Know who you are, what you want, and who you are not, and what you do not want. Okay. So she posed the question of a video, and we just started talking. She lived across the other side of the world. She lived in Holland. I'm in Australia. And so it was just an interesting question. It was just emails and text responses. And then very quickly, I really liked how she wrote and spoke in her text. And it's the same with guys I've met and spoke to on my server, that I've read your comments in the comments section, and I love the way you guys think. I get along with you, and I know I could be friends with you. I know that at the very least, I would have a good conversation with you. And it was the same with her. I had a great conversation and I just wanted to keep emailing back and forth, and it just grew and grew. Eventually, yeah, she shared a bit more with me, and I saw a picture of her and I found her attractive. We then talked face to face as well. And then things grew from there. But it didn't, at that time, I have to let you know that I wasn't thinking of anything happening, and neither was she, because we were both on the other side of the planet. And right at that time, the restrictions happened. I can't say the word, the COVID. And basically all that was left between us is conversation. Texting, emails, FaceTime. Every week on a Saturday, we would always schedule a time to meet on Saturday night and Skype for anywhere between 1 hour to sometimes 4 hours. 1 to 4 hours, every conversation, and it was hard to get off. We were getting tired and there was a time difference, but we turned up consistently on time and we wanted to. And this is the consistent point. This is the lesson, or what I wanted to impart, what I learned. We only had each other's personalities and values to judge each other by. The consistency of wanting to turn up and something interesting to say, and we were compatible. It wasn't just that we tried to put a square peg into a round hole. I was quickly aware that we were very compatible, and so was she. And that effort, the willingness to show up all the time without fail, and it never diminishing, like clockwork. And 3, very importantly, she never contradicted herself in her personality. And we never met. It was basically, more accurately, yes, we didn't meet, but there was no face-to-face tactility. I never held her hand until the restrictions were lifted. And it took about just over a year before either of us were able to fly and leave our respective countries. And by then, we'd established a foundation of, yeah, I can't wait to see you. And so it actually grew without any expectations. And it was only the personality, forcibly, I would submit because of the restrictions. I get it. Because if there weren't restrictions, we would have met a lot sooner. But I think that both of us, we gradually got to the place of more than just friends over time before we started talking about anything like that. So it was very gradual. It wasn't the kind of Tinder jumping onto bodies. And so it was well over a year before either of us were able to fly to each other and spend some time, weeks with each other, come back, fly over again, things like that, before she came over here. And I was sure that we could I mean, I was sure way before then. But what I'm saying is we had enough time, given all my knowledge, knowing what kind of person she was, knowing everything I talked about in the manosphere, what typical women are like. They say one thing, mean another. They contradict themselves. After the honeymoon period, they change. She had none of that. And that's why I've said also in my videos, even before I met her, that this knowledge is great, but everything you complain about with women, what happens if you get a woman that doesn't have any of those bad qualities? Are you just going to say, no, I don't, like, I believe in the manosphere, it's just a matter of time before you betray me and ruin my life? I would say you'd have to be insane that you have a woman where there's no red flags and you spend enough time with her and you hold her at arm's length and you take your time and you don't rush into any stage. You don't commit to her. You don't move in with her. You don't get serious. You give yourself enough time for when you're ready. Are you just always going to stop yourself and say, no matter what, no matter if she's perfect, I am never going to experience a relationship to the extent that I would like to, because I believe in the rhetoric that will keep me 100%. I'm not going to take any risk. You're not going to take a calculated risk. So as far as I can tell, and you guys are free to disagree with me, I don't care. I've got a happy life with my woman now. And I spent a long enough time with all the knowledge I know that the microscopic chance in the future, if it doesn't work out, you guys are free to tell me I told you so, okay? I don't care. But given everything I know and the security I feel with her and the vetting process and lack of contradictions, and, you know, some of you guys will say, yeah, but you just wait. In 5 or 10 years, I'm supposed to sit in a cage with you guys that I never meet, have relationships with my certainty, and don't, you know, I enjoy time with myself. I got off dating sites before I started talking to her. And I didn't want to date anymore. I was already off dating for, I think, about a year or two, a couple of years. I deleted my profiles. I didn't pause them. I deleted my dating profile pictures. So I was already at a point where I don't care. At that point, when I decided Dad had passed away, so that was a big turning point. For me, life was short. I'm not wasting time chasing women. So it was already a couple of years before she messaged me, and things grew to a point where this is a great opportunity and the last person I'm probably ever going to date and move forward with. And rationally speaking, if you want to talk about rationality, I would have to be stupid given how self-aware I try to be. Again, I'm not perfect, to negate this gift that's being given to me. You know, imagine me talking to you as I'm older and saying, yeah, this woman came into my life and just wanted to be with me. She was perfect. I found her attractive. Everything was like just tick, 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 tick. But no, because Briffault's law. Are you fucking insane? What's wrong with you, you idiot? You got your opportunity and you were too scared to take it. There was no red flag. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. I hope that clarifies why I decided to move in with my woman and commit to her and all those things. And in the future, I'll tell you a bit more, and I'll reveal a bit more of how things are, and, you know, more detail, maybe even from her. She doesn't like being on camera, which is why I'm always reluctant to share more. Also, I don't like sharing details of, like, even with my friends, I'll talk about a topic, but not, I'll never divulge personal things. I've had discussions with people I consider friends online and things like that. So anyway, I hope that was edifying, you being a peeping Tom. And maybe that was something that could help you, especially in terms of being sensible enough to really feel secure in the person's values and personality. We would have dated earlier if we lived close by. But even if there was no restrictions, it would have taken a while for either of us to sort of be like, all right, I'm getting the next plane. It wouldn't have been right away. It would have still been that buildup of talking and trusting each other through that consistency. It would have been sooner than a year or so, but I think the lesson is taking your time, trusting that the person doesn't contradict themselves with their values and their yeses and their nos, and, you know, are they holding their breath during the honeymoon period? And when they've relaxed and you know you're comfortable with them, all of a sudden a temper comes out that you never saw before. And you realize this person was just on their best behavior during the honeymoon period. And now they've relaxed and they're comfortable and they're showing you who they really are. They've taken the formality off the honeymoon period. And it's not really a person you like that much, or it's a very different kind of person. Allow the honeymoon period to go. Are you still not 100% comfortable? Do you still walk on eggshells? Do you avoid topics with this person you want to commit to and live with? No, don't. I would say no. You should be able to talk about anything. We talk about the good, the bad, the stuff that used to make me avoid conversations with exes. I can't wait to talk to my woman about them, because I'm eager to talk about the bad and the good, because every conversation there's never a worry of, oh my God, what's going to happen to us? There's never any problem with us, because we want to return to a baseline of tranquility. None of us likes anything odd poking out in our relationship. If we talk and one of us, we can tell, has got our eyebrows raised and we can't quite understand what the other person is saying. We talk until the other person understands, good or bad. And there's actually nothing I can't speak about with her. And so in that way, she was a really great friend and someone I was able to be completely open with right from the start. And she's never changed. So anyway, I hope that clarifies something, that the story of How I Met Your Mother, how I met my missus. Thanks for the question, Donna. And I think there'll be something in that for a few people. Let's see. Any questions while I was blabbing? Remember, if you want to ask me a question during the stream, make sure that you put 3 smiley faces or yellow emojis in front of your question. Now, what I would like to also clarify, I am not suggesting that the way to go is to be a passport bro to find women overseas. Now, if you're a guy that's spent the last, decade trying, like trying your best, being self-reflective, and the women here are trash, and you really want a family and you're getting too old, you want to be able to play with your son, you want to start and you want to be very sensible about it, and you've really done your research, and it's worth it to you to spend money on plane tickets to just date people and see what you can get overseas, do it. But I was done with relationships, and I wasn't going to spend money just to date and see what women I could find. Women weren't that important to me to roll the dice overseas. I only made the decision that she was worth it after I got to know her over a long period of time, the consistency of talking with her and so on and so forth, and her willing to, at the drop of a hat, as soon as she was able to fly over, she came over. So both her and I made the effort of, at the first opportunity, showing the other person that we were serious and how we felt and the consistency of that. Disco Cobra, he left a comment. He said, thank you for the super chat. He said, so you feel you made a good choice based on the knowledge you acquired over the year or so. That's the thing most people forget. It takes the time, even years, to develop a good relationship. Some people just want right now. Yes. Do you know how to defer gratification? Can you interrupt your hormones with your prefrontal cortex and say, yeah, like, we get along. She likes me. I like her. She ain't going anywhere. And if she does, fuck her. If she can't wait a few weeks or months for me, and she's talking about, I love you forever, future, move in, I'll move across the world. Like, if they can't wait, if they don't have any patience for that, and you're showing patience, then that tells you something too. So if you are jumping the gun and you think she's going to fly away, or some other guy's going to whip her up because you don't sacrifice everything to show and prove to her how much you love her, then really you're not on the same page. Again, does the person have the same values as you? Can she show that she cares enough to be patient? From her eyes, she's probably looking at, can he show that he's different to other guys by being patient with this or doing that, which should be reasonable for you if you actually have to show through actions that you mean what you say by your values. So yeah, I think there's the knowledge that you learn in the manosphere and through these more philosophical and grounded, mature discussions with people, the kind that I'm trying to have with you guys, because I only found a way forward with women in relationships, or actually just being done with them, because of the quality of women here and the effort I was putting in and getting nothing back. The only way through is a philosophical way through. Sorry, I spat a bit. I just had a sip of coffee. That's just going to dehydrate me more. But anyway, the only way through is philosophically to fine-tune your life and your ethics with all the knowledge and conversations you've had. Now, if you're online having these alpha, end-of-the-world type, make a lot of money, gym bro, top 1% guys that's going to get the best woman conversations, if they're the conversations you have, You won't develop an ethical, personal way through your problems. You are going to always be looking for a Chad Alpha blueprint by which to lead your life. Have this blueprint in front of you, and you're going, talk like this, do this, present this way, I'm Alpha, 5%er, high value, briefholds, you name it. You are living your life off a script rather than empirically through the knowledge you've acquired that is objective about men and women and so on and so forth, what they respond to. But if you don't respect the way some women primitively, like animals, respond to men, and you don't respect that, then do not pick them. If they are primitive animals, and girls, if guys are acting like primitive guys and you don't respect that, you don't say, well, that's all guys want, and so I'll dress in a short skirt and I'll bang every guy. What am I supposed to do? That's what guys want, and I don't feel good about myself, but that's what they want. It's your own fault. Either live a life that you're proud of rather than living a life that you're ashamed of, walking on eggshells with people, knowing all this knowledge and not saying, I know what men and women are like on autopilot as animals, especially today where we're very uncivilized. We're very childish. Am I going to say, well, I don't respect it, join it? Going back to the initial question, say the world is gay now, and I know that's just not me. What am I going to say? Oh, well, I might as well just have a gay relationship. Who cares what most women are like? Who cares? You know, when you have to pick Jane, and Jane is like all women, don't pick Jane. But if the only woman is a particular, I don't know, Alice, you pick Alice or nothing. I'm talking figuratively, but there's only a certain type of woman, a reasonably certain type of human, self-reflective, nominally responsible, introvert like you, extrovert like you, whatever you like, that matches your values. And it's hard and it's difficult, but go about it, have your boundaries, know what's a definite no, because you're going to be stuck with the no. Do not, I said earlier, and you all know that, a lot of us, and me too, before, it's easy to say, well, all women are like that. At least I get laid. Well, I might as well. You get a little bit of fun. I don't want short-term little bit of fun and then it's not there anymore and I have to tolerate a bad relationship if I am to keep them. I'd rather have a tranquil, free, compatible life where I can do what I want, just like I had without a woman. I want to have a similar kind of life with her where I'm completely myself and I've got a lot of freedom. I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. I don't have to have so much time compartmentalized on my own where I can breathe for once. And when I go back to the person I mistakenly partnered up with, I have to hold my breath and walk and quack like a duck lest she leaves me. So, anyway, I knew it would be an interesting question that would get a lot of verbal diarrhea out of me. Yeah, look out for Adam's apples, unless you're into that kind of thing, guys. Okay. Jordan says, thanks for sharing how you made the right decision. Bring her on for a debate sometimes. She doesn't like showing her face. But I discussed with her that maybe in the future, if there's enough questions over time, enough interesting ones, I may do like I record a video, not live, where I'll answer the best questions with her. So that could be a possibility. So let me see. Hey to the regulars, Brad, Vero, just a guy. Alonzo, Tom, I think you left did you leave a message? Yeah, you did. There was another question by, let's see. let's see, by Pete. I think, yeah, it's this one right here. Pete said, continue expanding your previous topic as well, how men can embrace change, empower themselves, letting go of past programming from parents and society. That would be the last stream I did where I talked about how we self-sabotage ourselves, how we make excuses. And sometimes our parents sabotage us. It's very hard to cut the umbilical cord of gaslighting, narcissistic parents, the smothering mother, the way you were, the scars that were given to you as a child that kind of, they never leave. It takes a lot of intentional kind of reflective work, kind of going, oh yeah, I remember that. Mum or dad did that, or dad wasn't there, or mum really berated me every time I did something wrong, or I couldn't actually share this because they thought my drawings were stupid. Of course I hid my talent, and I just learned to do things for their approval, whatever they wanted, not what I was. So I kept my talents hidden, things like that. So it's good to actually go back to your childhood and try and reflect on those mental photographs and those moments. And a lot of those can actually answer a lot of questions and problems you're having in the future as an adult. They did with me. Many of my problems with women were due to how I was conditioned and how I responded and what I did and didn't get from parents, what I kept running after, the approval of women in terms of like what I didn't get when I was a kid, the mentoring I maybe didn't get from my father. My father was great, but he didn't really sit me down and mentor me about women and relationships. He just told me to be careful, and he was always there. But all of these things you did and didn't get, or the extent to which you did and didn't get them, almost all of these speed bumps you discovered that you had and other people found easy, most of them can be traced to when you were younger. So it's really good to finally see, that caused it. Not an excuse, but to really take the weight off your shoulder. It came from, it's always great to turn a question mark to erase a question mark, not to blame it, but to see where it came from, where it came in, because it doesn't come from nowhere. There's some hard wiring as well. There's DNA, but DNA combined with psychological limitations is almost like a tattoo you can't rub off. It takes a lot of repetition, honest repetition, like going to the gym to build a muscle. And the moment you stop going, it kind of really shrinks back to what it was in childhood. Many of us are men and women who are the same 5-year-old that's grown up and learned to talk better and conduct themselves and act better and put on a mask and maneuver life and avoid uncomfortable moments, because now you're an adult. You can find your own safety and go into your own four walls and avoid things. Whereas when you're a child, you can't avoid your parents. You have to put up with whatever they're, shoveling onto you or abusing you with, or not giving you enough of. You have to sit there and take it, or have to sit there and suffer for what you're not getting. There's nowhere to go. When you're older, you can avoid everything. If I want to pick one word that most of us are going through with our problems with relationships, is avoidance. Avoid, avoid, avoid. So what's the solution? Confront, confront, confront. Simple. I might make a video on that very simple concept. So, yeah, very important. Very important. Here's an interesting question. Brad says, how long would you say you vetted this person, and did you also vet her peer and family group? This is interesting too, because I remember that one important point is to see how the girl you're going out with, how she is with her parents, what her parents are like, what her relationship is like. My partner's parents and family are great. I felt very comfortable with them because they felt very familiar. They're very much like my upbringing. They're very different people, but they got the same values. They enjoy the simple things, being at home with each other, having meals, things like that. So the family upbringing, I felt immediately comfortable. I didn't feel like I was going on, even though I went on a holiday when I met them, it wasn't like I was meeting a different world. The family environment was very, very familiar. I felt very comfortable very quickly because it felt like something I'd experienced. And so that was very, very comforting to me. So not only was my partner that I went to meet, she matched what I thought she'd be, and we'd seen each other. We talk every week, and it was just an extension. Like we just moved further. So there wasn't, obviously there was the immediate kind of really nice shock of being able to touch the person finally and hug them and feel them and look at them in 3D, smile and watch their body move around. And that was kind of surreal, but great. And I knew that was going to be an adjustment. But also, as she mentioned to me this morning, well, because we were talking about this before the stream, that's the small risk you take. I knew her as much as I would possibly able to know anyone, and I was just dying to meet her, that there was a small risk of maybe when you meet each other, it's just going to feel wrong. That's the unquantifiable thing, but it's a risk you have to take, because what's the alternative? No, I want it to remain as perfect as it is now at a distance, and I'm going to keep this perfection here. It's stupid. You have to take a small risk to see if this could open up a world of possibilities that you want. You can't just look at naked women online, or you can't just imagine what a perfect relationship with people would be. You've got to meet friends. You've got to meet potential lovers. But the vetting process and all the information and you being sensible about it can give you such a leg up and an advantage over the way that other people are blindly just doing it through their biology and justifying their biology through intellectual STEM-based conversations like, the way we are as animals and the statistics of men and women divorcing and she'll never love you and women don't love men, they love what men can do for them, which I agree objectively, that's true. Generally men and women, generally women don't love men. They don't. The vast majority, they don't love men. Be honest about it. Even women, look around. Women don't love men. They tolerate men until they prove themselves in terms of how they can make her feel good, what he can provide, how he can make her feel safe, how special he can make her feel. Most women are just self-referentially in love with themselves through a guy. That's what love is for them. But through all this that you know, and you go and you come across somebody that, objectively speaking, you're paying attention now. You're not on biological autopilot. You might find her pretty on a date, but you're sober and you're going, yeah, I like you, but let's have a conversation. But tell me about, like, what do you like doing, and so on and so forth. Find out what the friend is like, what the potential friend. Insist on the friend. Insist on every reasonable question being answered. But when she's hiding, when she's being vague and romantic and guarded, and it's like, be able to talk. That's why I keep encouraging guys to not be afraid to learn how to articulate yourself. So if you ask about her past and she's like, I don't want to talk about it, it's like, you should be able to say, look, I don't want to know details, but I'm trying to find out about you, whether we're compatible, because I want to know if this can go somewhere. Learn how to verbalize something like that, because if that's how you feel, you need to say, no, vagueness until I want to get in bed with you just will not do. I can go to bed with anyone. We can play this surface game talking about the weather, the food, and social media and LOL and OMG till the cows come home. But I would like to have a relationship with you, if possible, if you are compatible. And I cannot tell if you are compatible if you do not tell me. And if you don't tell me what's behind the suit of armor, sorry, I've got better things to do than keep kind of trying to knock down your walls that need therapy or time alone enough. If you need time alone, look, I would suggest stop dating, stop wasting my time and other people's time. There's too many people that just jump from body to body saying nothing, and their excuse is, well, I've been hurt, and this person, I don't care. At least be honest about wasting time. It would be nice. I think that's what people who are on Tinder are doing. We're kind of signaling that we haven't come through our demons yet, and we're pretending to have some sort of physical naked. We're simulating what a relationship could be, and it's just over the horizon. It's almost there, but not quite. I'm not ready. When you're ready to take things seriously, you will, and you'll conduct yourself accordingly. And you'll have the standards by which you will start vetting people. You don't vet people via Briefolds law and biology. You vet the individual that you are going to pick to the exclusion of everyone else because you want a long-term relationship. You are sick of the carousel. You want something meaningful. You want something consistent and long-term. You want to wake up to that person again and again, even if you don't wake up to them literally, but you want to wake up to that image, that consistent image of a person going forward to see if it can last. Again, I think Karu said it. It's like either you date in with intent or you do not. But stop bullshitting yourself. And you guys who have the stats, throw as much stats as you want at me, and I'll agree with the stats. But those stats had very precious little to do with my woman and me. Do you see the perspective I'm coming at? You guys can hold your breath and say, well, we'll wait for one day where we can say, I told you so. Keep holding your breath and spend your life doing that. Take no risks, no calculated risk yourself. I frankly don't care. I'm happy. My relationship is great, right? So what are you going to say? Oh, just wait. Great. Just wait. Be like a feminist, and with your negative magnifying glass, wait for me to trip, and you can say, I was right because I waited for a failure. While your life is neutrally safe. Like, again, if you like not that, like I was in your position, but I would offer, if you're really on the side of men and a man, like I've met guys who are happily married and have kids. I don't want kids. I don't want any of their lives. And they're genuinely happy. What am I going to say? Oh, dude, you idiot. Quick, divorce her. She might be everything you want, but it's just an act. How long have you been with her? Oh, years now. We've got kids. Like, oh, it's all an act, dude. And I don't even know his world. He's not my friend. I can't even judge his life to the extent of a friend that I'm in his life. And I know his wife. I've observed them. I haven't even got that benefit, but I'm going to judge a stranger. It's really stupid. Anyway, rant over. Let's see. Luke says, Human, did you learn anything new in this relationship that you hadn't learned thus far? Or perhaps did your new gal surprise you in some way regarding her behavior or approach in relationships? One thing that I did and that I was reflecting on the other day, I was talking to the guys on Discord, is that, I was naive before I started dating in my late teens, early 20s. I can't remember. My mother and sister, great women. They kind of split, men did one thing, women did something. I took care of I respected my mum and my sister. I did work outside. Like I had my role, they had theirs. They respected me. Men and women were different. It was just a real respectful, loving family. And then I went into the world expecting women to be like my sister and my mother, right? And it was the complete opposite. I got torn to shreds. Like I'm lucky I dodged any major bullets where a chick got accidentally pregnant, but I was careful in that regard. And even though I was naive and didn't know anything, I knew enough not to cross a line that I couldn't come back from, as in, have unprotected sex or marry and have kids with some woman, where there's no going back. I really was aware of a line I couldn't cross. And so at least I had that. I had a boundary that was really an obvious red flag that I wouldn't go beyond unless I wanted to tear down that flag myself, because I was 100% yes. And so I was always walking on eggshells because none of these women didn't resemble my sister and my mother in any degree. And you know what my naivety was? I thought it was just going to be a smorgasbord of just really nice women who liked me and wanted to be fair. Because I liked women and I wanted to give them stuff and be fair like a guy. And I just got vultures. I got business women in the guy. Like I got wolf in sheep's clothing. And that was the lesson I learned. So the lesson I learned with the chick I'm with now is that I finally got the woman I thought I was going to get after I left home and started dating. Like when I thought, like my assumptions of what women would be like, it's kind of come full circle. It's like, she's just a decent, nice, kind person and she cares about me and she wants to talk. She doesn't play games. She's not two-faced. She's consistent. All of the naive things I expected when I left home, I expected women just to be decent, fair, nice human being, a nice person. She's that. What I got, I had to play this war with women and learn all this knowledge to protect myself from the wrong women. And then when she came into my life, I didn't have to protect like I had it at the forefront. I was aware of like, any girl, including her, when she came into my life, if you touch any of these things I've learned that immediately makes you pop up as a red flag, what's that game where you've got all those people's faces and you knock them down? It's Guess Who or something. I can't remember what the board game was. If you knock down any of them, you just start disqualifying yourself. Like that's the way, with all the knowledge I accumulated over decades, every woman was like now on a date, she just started knocking down those dominoes. I was like, nah, no relationship with you. Whereas with her, she never knocked down any. She was just refreshingly, there were no red flags with her, like absolutely none. And as time went on, there were none. And she was consistently always the same person. And she liked me as a person. And she showed it with things she did where it had nothing to do with any benefit she would get. She just did it because she knew I liked it. She does things for me because she knows I like it. She does things for me that she doesn't care about and she doesn't like, but she likes them because she does them for me. Because I like doing that for my partner too. So yeah, I would say that in a funny way, I got what I assumed women would just be as human beings with her. And she didn't step on any of the landmines, or she didn't, knock down any of the red flag dominoes that I already had up through all the knowledge I'd accumulated. So if anything, all this knowledge that you sensibly learn about women, which is it. I encourage guys to sensibly learn all of this stuff from the manosphere, but don't become sort of like a PUA alpha dude bro Chad. But again, you can waste your life and do what you want. But if you learn all this knowledge, they become like dominoes in front of you when you go on dates. And very easily, the wrong kind of trashy women, which are everywhere, they start knocking them down, and you see it, and you go, thank you, but no thank you. And you can't not see the dominoes not knocked down, especially if you forgive them, and then you fail in your relationship and you feel ashamed and humiliated. At some point, you get old. It's like, I'm not gonna forgive women who knock down the substantial dominoes of values that I know I just can't. I can't be in a relationship where she's knocked down a very important foundation of what it takes to sort of keep the glue between a man and a woman. But especially a compatible man and a woman that is you and Jane. So, yeah, she surprised me and made me realize like, yeah, who would have thought, just a decent human being, a nice, she's compatible first off, right? But what she made me learn was like, yeah, there are nice people out there that do want to talk, who don't play games. But you do need to find a compatible person. I would say that, because I have been out with a few very nice women, but you start having friction between yourself and them, and you start saying no to things because things aren't right. You're not compatible. You try to give a bit to them because you think they're going to come partly your way, and then they don't, and you're just compromising forever in your values. Neither of us compromise our values at all. For me, the only teething process I found was, and I knew this would be the case, is learning to live with someone, because I've been alone all my life. I have never really lived long-term with anyone, but I expected that to be the case. But that's the price I had to pay initially to get comfortable living with someone. Now it's fine, but that is realism. Again, you need to be realistic about these things. I didn't think, I wouldn't notice a difference going from being single and a bachelor to being committed with someone and living with them 24/7. It's going to be completely the same. No, it's not. You have to be very realistic about where you put your time and attention and how you choose people or not choose them in your life. Again, I want to reiterate this, the importance of knowing who you are and who you are not. It's never better exemplified than with the person you claim to love or the person you claim to be living with. And if you're a guy or a girl, especially a guy, I hear guys say, "Ooh, can't say that around my wife," or "I better ask the boss." It's like, you don't act that way around your friends. You don't ask your friends for permission to be who you are and have your opinion and have your likes and hobbies. If you have to hide a lot of important things, I would say if you have to hide any important things from your significant other, that little red flag tickling you at the back of your head, that's not nothing. That's why I would offer the lesson that I went through. Take your freaking time. But that's why have the courage to take baby steps forward so that you trust yourself, whatever next stage you decide on. It's not if she's blackmailing you and saying, well, where's this relationship going and what are we? It's like, well, this is where I am. You've obviously caught up before I have. If you don't let me catch up, I feel the same way about you. I think things are great. If you're going to blackmail me to get to where you, like, if you're going to arm wrestle me and it's always going to be your decision and I have to just agree with it, we better just part ways now. But if you love me, you have to respect the fact that I get to a certain place before you, and you have to be okay with waiting. Same way with women. Almost every guy has to wait for the first kiss, getting her into bed. We can't just have it when we want, and we're respectful of the fact. But a lot of women, it's like, no, it's just my way. This is my relationship and the schedule goes according to me. But if you love the person, you respect that they're another human being. It's like, yeah, they're not going anywhere. I'm prepared to wait. Me and my missus, we waited because of the lockdowns for over a year. But I'd already given up, so that was easy. I wasn't interested in dating anyway. Not just, I wasn't stopping myself from dating anyone else. Like, I didn't want to. And she was great. Like, she's the best person I'd come across. So it was kind of easy for me. But her, she could have dated. She didn't. And she stood up and she said she wouldn't. And she didn't. And she's that particular type of person. Now, especially in the early time when we were just flirting, before we started to talk about commitment and long-term and moving in the future as a possibility, even before any other discussion happened, if she was like, I wouldn't expect her to stay single before we started talking serious. So, look, I'd say we need to be very honest and not go on biological autopilot and use all the excuses everyone else uses, because there's too many people making content and being experts and gurus and, the word coach before, after the name of their channel. And they're just like a 20-something-year-old. It's like, look, of course you've had experience, but coach, it reminds me of, was it Justin Timberlake? I remember when he just split up with Britney Spears. And I remember this because it was ridiculous. I think him or Britney, I can't remember who it was. They were like 22 and they released an autobiography. It's like, what? You've barely gone into adulthood and you are going to publish a book about your life. Your life is barely off the starting blocks as an adult. So anyway. Well, Rocket says, my ex loved me more than anyone else and was dating someone else a week after we broke up. Yeah. Well, look, as hard as breakups are, however they happen, after they're broken up, it's painful to see how people act. But I would respect a girl more that if she started dating someone a week after, rather than she was flirting with someone while you were together and she broke up with you because she wanted to monkey branch to someone else. But if you kind of break up and you're both trying and then the other person moves on right away, it's not nice. It makes you feel pretty shitty, but you're broken up. Who cares? It doesn't say much about their character. And yeah, you can say you can't believe it, and it's not very noble. I would agree, but again, all bets are off. You've parted ways, and you have no say in their life, and they have no say in yours any more than you break up, and then you just feel like going to the hookers. Like what? She can't say anything, or you never got to. She kept you from your friends, and all of a sudden now you just go and hang out with your buddies. If your buddies will have you back. She hasn't got a say in any part of your life anymore. All the restrictions she imposed on you, even all the self-imposed restrictions you had, you have no say in what the other person does. Sorry, might not feel good. It might feel like a betrayal, but it's not really. It's pretty shitty. And you were right to break up because really they weren't in love with you at all. If they really loved you and they were heartbroken, they would have left longer. If a person gets on with their life and starts dating and banging other people tomorrow after they break up, they were already out a long time before. And you should have probably dealt with all of this and broken up earlier, probably. My opinion. But again, what someone does afterwards. Yeah, Karu says I would have done the same thing. Like, who's to say? Like, sometimes it's liberating when, even if you're trying, you break up and you say, F this, I'm going. Like, you really just kind of jump out of that plane with a parachute. I'm not coming back. It's like, I'm enjoying every moment of my life after today. I don't care. I'm not waiting around and maybe we'll come back. It's done. Because I know I try. I stay in there longer than I should have. But I squeeze every ounce so I can sleep at night afterwards. Now, I don't want to date because it takes me a while to date seriously. But once or twice, I've started to date within a few weeks to have a release and have fun. But no effing way was I going to get into a relationship anytime soon. Some people do. And especially if I was in a bad long-term relationship that we were having problems and fights and I was just too chicken shit to leave. When I finally did bail, I just wanted to be free. What it says is you shouldn't have been there. Like, if you were compatible and you had long-term values, the chances that the person will just start dating straight away are almost zero. But if you aren't compatible, you never talk, and both of you are just kind of waiting for something to break and you would much rather be alone or with other people, then of course one person probably would start fucking around. Who knows? How could they? Who cares? Do you want them back? No, but then shut up. Like, I don't want them back. What do I care if she starts banging donkeys? Like I can laugh at her more and tease my friends and going, yeah, look, I can make fun of her, but it's somehow a bit shaming. Like, you meant so little that she was like, she couldn't wait to jump on somebody else. That should kind of tell you, good riddance. You're both probably holding on to, a corpse. Another question by somebody. Let me see. This was a long one. It was by Tom. I think he's here on the stream. Hi, you are. Hi, Tom. And it was a long one. It was basically around the topic of, am I living vicariously through the fears of other people? Am I saying my yeses and my nos because of how much fear the manosphere has or what the stats are? So it was an interesting one. I'll let him speak for himself. He says, I have a question and I'll attempt to phrase it as diplomatically as possible. You have frequently spoken in your streams about people who choose not to engage in seeking relationships, and the most common rationale you provide for their behavior is fear of being hurt or hurt again, as the case may be. Is it possible that this in your position, that this is you in your position, because you extrapolate the actions and thoughts of others as if these people were you. No malice, but is your position one of projection? No, but I'll continue. And this is why I keep hammering home for everyone to make it personal. Don't say the yeses and nos of the manosphere or the stats or things like that, but I'll get back to that. Tom continues, in theory, you see others who refuse to date and think of what would prevent you from doing so. And in your case, you know the answer is fear. So you assume the same rational basis in others. I am not presuming this is what you think, which is why I asked the question. Yeah, look, this is a fair and sensible question, Tom. I know you're coming from an honest and genuine place, and you're trying to phrase it well so as not sort of misinterpret what you're trying to get across. He continues, I find it to be extremely tricky and mostly futile to try to imagine what someone else thinks. Me too. This is why I encourage people to talk, and through sharpening your lexicon, you're better able to approximate what someone means and who they are. Because you're communicating, never more important than in relationships with a potential or a romantic partner. This could be a fault in myself, a lack of empathy and imagination with regard to others. It's the blessing and curse of marching to your own drumbeat. Make the person in question I'm supposed to anticipate a woman, and it isn't even worth the attempt. Even if you get it right, they're unlikely to admit it. While I admit my past experiences contribute to my decision to live alone, they're not the primary motivator. I can get dates and people around me badgering me about why I don't. The answer I give most often is, I fell in love with a simple life. I can relate. He says, maybe I just attract and date the wrong people, which is why I cannot associate a relationship with peace. It's the carrot and stick. Fear is the stick. Happiness is the carrot. I'm chasing the carrot. I would also add, regardless of what you attract, you still have the decision of what you will permit or what you let stick. You can't control in the street, grifters and, hey, how you going? Are you interested in signing up to blah, blah, blah? It's like, no, thank you. You don't know who's going to come up to you, who's going to say hello, and so on and so forth. You don't want to have a grumpy look on your face, because you will deter even compatible people, friends or otherwise, from you, right? Unless you really want to avoid everyone. If you're a misanthrope and you've just had enough and you don't like society, then that's a different story. I don't think I'm projecting. I think I have a good degree of sympathy and empathy, where I can place myself in the shoes of, in a sensible way, where other people's fears and experiences might have come from. So for instance, a chick who's been sort of abused in a big way, I'm not going to shame her for not, you found the wrong guy. What's wrong with you, idiot? Get back on the dating carousel. It's like, leave her alone. Like, she's got every right to say no and be a lot happier in her world away from the romantic love life and dating than she is now completely free and just with a minimal amount of friends or completely on her own. I'm perfectly okay, and I respect the guys who go monk and they've been hurt so badly. The guys that keep bitching about women and bringing up stats and talking about how stupid women are, they're the guys that suggest to me that they're being a bit too triumphalistic and saying we're better than women and we're alpha dude bros and money and we're stronger and, just trying to sort of be better by putting other people down. So, because what helped me speak better to myself is I developed a good ability when I was having a argument with an ex long ago in the past, and I found it hard, and I'd be the same as the majority of guys are like, I won't say this because she'll get angry. I won't say the wrong thing. I have to walk on eggshells. Don't upset her. Keep her happy. She's upset at me, blah, blah, blah. The whole Freudian mother figure shaming the little boy. What I started to do that really helped is that I looked at our interaction, me and my ex, from a third person perspective to kind of judge the situation impartially. Like, hang on, I didn't deserve her talking to me like, oh, hang on, she's selfish. I keep doing this, this, and this, and she does nothing for me. She doesn't want to do anything for me. She doesn't care about me every time I ask for the smallest thing. So I got the ability to try and be as objective as possible because I hated the confusion of me feeling scared and like I'd done something wrong simply because she was so sure that I did. My girlfriend's angry at me, therefore I did something wrong because everyone agrees that's what's going on. Why did you upset her? What did you do? You're the guy. What did you do wrong? But then I was like observing it like a scientist, like I did nothing wrong. This is just a romantic excuse. No, she was the bitch here. Like she deserves to shut up. Like she deserves to apologize. Like you started to say like, hang on, fairly, this person as a human being and me as a human being, I started to be able to kind of to solve or make sense of a situation, get out of my own subjective head, my own animal head, and be fair about it. And then I was able to stand up for myself because I saw the unfairness. It's like, no, you, human, needed to say X, Y, and Z. And next time, this will make this situation better. You'll be able to resolve this. You'll be able to tell her where you're coming from instead of staying silent. And the idiot thinks she's right because you said nothing. She's so selfishly sure that she's right, pointing her finger at you that the boyfriend isn't doing what he should do, and you're cowering and you're acting like a sorry 5-year-old, and that further justifies that she's right. No, you speak up and say, hang on, no, there's two of us here. Let me think about it. Or no, I don't like this. And you can pound it like as much as you want. Learn how to step outside and observe a fair situation. That'll help you be fairer and then in turn help you speak up for yourself. And then I got better in those situations, recognizing, oh, this seems familiar. This is deja vu. This was like that situation where I stepped out of myself and she said this and I knew I should have said this. Now I can say it. It's in real time. So I would say that no, I'm kind of stepping outside of my own selfish life and being able to try and see where another guy's coming from fairly. Like, is he just being lazy, or is he being walked all over? Or, you know, this guy deserves a degree of sympathy because he's not doing anything wrong. He might just have an overbearing person, or maybe he is in the wrong. So I don't think I'm living vicariously. It's that I've got a good ability to be, I'm not perfect, but I've got a better ability than most to step outside myself to observe a situation that's frustrating me or to solve a problem. So I don't just solve external relational problems from a subjective point of view. I've got an ability now, and I've practiced to solve external relational problems that I'm part of as a third person observing the situation and being able to be fair about it. Because quite easily women dominate men and they feel self-righteously dominating because, no, you should be acting this way, boyfriend, because this is the way boyfriends act. And men don't sort of say, well, if you're a good girlfriend, you would fairly act in this way, you selfish whatever. So that kind of helps. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see. Alonzo says, would you consider doing a story on divorce rates around the world? I don't care. I really don't care about politics and what the stats are illuminating when you keep dating and failing and you're trying to find as much more information to make sense of your world. Portugal has over 90% divorce rate. Spain has 80%, both strong Catholic countries. Yeah, but it's kind of first world. All first world countries have been infected with girl power. So I think it's got more to do with the modern infection of girl power and political correctness and censorship and all the kind of social media. Like the chicks and the kind of, how can I put it? The woke script that has the woke and female script that has dominated the first world narrative where survival isn't at stake, that has more of a problem than Catholicism. Catholicism can't do anything to deter the young from the avalanche of social media and free everything. And this is like the flower power generation of the 60s and 70s, rebirth through social media, and there's no stopping it. I'm just wondering what the content of online social media is going to be like in 20 to 30 years after the kids of these generations grow up and start discussing the wasteland that they've left behind them and what their lives have become. Just a guy asks, have you discussed money yet? Yes. Shared responsibilities, shared financial goals. Yep. We don't have many, like, we're fairly simple. We don't have that kind of social outgoing financial goals. We're pretty set, both of us. Would you let her redecorate the place? Yeah, but she doesn't care. She likes my place the way it is. She's very simple. She doesn't try to change. She likes my world. She's very simple in her world, and she's very happy with moving into mine, and my house is fine with her. And if she wanted to, I keep telling her, redecorate as much as you want, because I know how compatible I am with her. Her style is the same as mine, but she's happy with my style. This is what, it's not just superficial styles like redecorating, money and things. If you find someone you're very compatible with in terms of values, you don't argue over anything, or the things you don't actually argue with them. You have differences of opinion until you get on the same page where you both understand each other. We're never going to argue about leaving the toothbrush somewhere, or the glass, or, you know, one funny thing I found with her and I think it's very connected with compatibility, is that when I tell her of the horror stories of my exes, initially she was kind of skeptical. She thought I was, nah, can't be that bad. They sound like stories that you watch on YouTube. And I said, look, no, here in the West, this is fairly common. It's very rare to have sensible people. And I kind of saw it, not just with her, but when I went to Holland, people are just very, very, very much like human beings. It really feels like an adult is in charge of the country still. Whereas here in Melbourne, and I'm sure in England and America, it feels like children are running the world. So yeah, there's none of those problems with me. But again, a lot of the vetting and compatibility and the time taken to make sure we were compatible abated a lot of those kind of, just doesn't happen. Let me see. I think there have been a few super chats that I want to thank people for. Elusive Man, how are you? Here's a good question. Just the guy says, what would you do if she complained your cameras and mics were taking too much space at home and wanted to get rid of it or part of it? She wouldn't. She never would. And this is the thing. I think that when they ask guys, well, what if this happens? It won't. It's like asking me, what if I turn gay? Or what if my mother suddenly came knocking on the door with a machete and tried to dismember me? Like, okay, let me entertain you. If this fictional movie you talk about, like, never say never. Like, there's a statistical minute possibility that this could happen. Let me entertain you. Then I could kind of make up something. But the degree to which I've kind of made my life real and trusted in it going forward, like, you can give me what ifs, like very, very small chance what ifs, but I think those things are more pertinent to guys that risk everything blindly. They go out with girls, crossing their fingers, believing that dating is luck instead of a skill. I've believed that dating is a skill for a long time. And a lot of guys just say, well, you're delusional because women blah, 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 and dating statistics, and women are all the same. Well, if you believe that way and that's the way you date, I can see why the statistics apply to you to a large degree, if not completely. The statistics apply to me in a very, very small degree, especially the more stubbornly I adhere to my values and my boundaries. And that's just rational. You can say, well, that's delusional because of data, but it's not. The data doesn't take into account an individual not acting like the lemming of every other guy and every woman not acting like the lemming of every other woman. And if there's two non-lemmings intentionally dating and having healthy boundaries that a psychologist would interpret as healthy boundaries, the chances of that happening are small. Just like the statistical chances of failure of anything else are small. Look at someone starting a business, how they go about it and how determined and intentional and precise and open, wide-eyed, and sort of their work ethic, how they're open, they don't hide anything, they're not avoidant. The chances of them starting a business and running it with that kind of intent are very small compared to the person that just pushes a shitload of money into a business, has no experience, doesn't know what they're doing, and thinks it's just this. It's like the people who start YouTube channels, seeing some millionaire and saying, well, all it is me putting on a camera and I'll be able to leave my job and I'll be a millionaire and I'll be set for life in a couple of years. It's like you're not doing it properly. The more you discount your individual will and responsibility to do things as right and as best as you can, and you want to do it as professionally and as honestly and as maturely, if your friend came up to you and said, I want this in life, and they said, I'm just going to do it blindly, or I'm going to do it in this way, and I'm obsessive, and I'm going to do it precisely, and this is what I want, and I don't want this, you could trust, well, good for you. You've probably got a good degree of luck of getting the results you want because you're actually approaching this pretty well. There's a degree of luck of the obstacles that will come your way and the people and women that will come into your life. But if you've got good boundaries and stuff, yeah, you might fail, but you've got a high degree of chance of risk. Thank you for the super chat, Humble Boy Human. Don't you feel lonely not having a partner? No, I don't. And I do have a partner. Maybe you didn't know. I'm apologizing, but I was just discussing. I've got someone and I've been with them for years, and we moved in together last year, a couple of weeks ago. So it's been over a year now. 24/7 as well. Tom says, thanks, Human. People often interpret statements made online through the lens of hostility, which makes communication difficult. Have a beer on me. Thanks, man. Look, I think when someone writes well, maybe because I like writing and I read and things like that, I can quickly tell if someone can write well. And usually if they write well, like you can see if someone's being snide or facetious or anything like that. Like you were trying to communicate well, and you're often sort of says, you don't want to be rude, you don't want to come across the right way. You said you're not presuming what I think and things like that. So yeah. I think people who watch me as well would be very surprised if I became another person that was offended very easily. I don't take offense. I mean, even Roman, who's always it's sort of pushing a little bit too hard, and sometimes he gets his comments deleted by the bot or someone with a wrench. If you insult me or someone I care about, I will be offended by that. But I won't get offended if you have a different opinion to me. I don't care. I believe in free speech. More precisely, I really believe in and will defend civil and fair and mature free speech. Not just the speech that I agree with. Otherwise, I don't agree with free speech. I think that Noam Chomsky coined that. Big Ol says, what is the difference between a man paying for a prostitute and sex and a man paying for your dinner that leads to sex? I know the answer to that. The prostitute's cheaper. Or the woman that you date and have in your life costs more. I think there was a joke with that, wasn't there? Not my woman though. Like I said, she's very, very minimal. To the fact I talk about how easy it is to talk with her and she gets me. I remember when I first met her and we started spending time together, and I said, I don't want you to take offense to this, and I don't think you will. I said, you are very simple and very easy to be with. And she goes, I take that as a compliment. And I knew she would, but that was me kind of just making sure, because I'm used to the reactions of women wanting to be special, and I don't want to be ordinary. And I compliment her on her sensible, ordinary, human kind of qualities. I don't compliment her on being like this mythical unicorn. Like, they don't exist. Elusive Man says, the boyfriend script always put me off. Why can't we just like each other for us and to hell with role playing? Well, there is the biology that most women come to the table with, as well as like some naive men who come to the table with alpha dude bro mentality. You both push each other away because you're communicating as objects. You know, one object wanting the other object to go into their frame. A woman wanting the alpha dude bro provider, say that 5 times fast, to come into her selfish woman, provide for me, rich lifestyle, hypergamous frame. And the guy wanting her to come into his submissive, do everything and say everything I want you to say, make me a sandwich frame, and never cheat on me frame. Yes, as Boffin says, put 3 yellow emojis or smiley faces before your question if you would like me to respond to them. Otherwise, there's too many questions. I can't tell what you guys are just chatting with each other about, or what you would like me to answer, or what you would like me to respond to or talk about. Let's see. Any more super chats or questions? Crummy VCR says, boo, you missed me. What did you ask, man? Human, I'm also with a woman I love from MX. What's MX? Is that Holland? Is that the Netherlands? Is that what's the colder countries? There's a collective name for the colder countries. Scandinavian countries. Crummy VCR says, if you can't play cards well, then it's not a good likelihood something as complex as dating is going to go well for the person. Understand the wide game and know how to call the bluffs. Yeah, and know when to kind of leave and not go all in and feel like, oh, well, I've already put in 80%. I might as well just put the remaining 20% and end up homeless. Mecca Medina says, do you think the concept of marriage is dead? It's whether it's dead for you, the same as guys who want to get married. I've never really shamed guys for wanting to get married or have kids if that's what you want to do. I did a previous video that's popular called Marriage Convince Me or something, or Convince Me of Marriage. It was me sort of getting annoyed. I had a few weeks where I was at barbecues and family where for some reason I had like 3 or 4 people just like opposing that question and almost belittling me. Why aren't you married, or you don't have kids? Aren't you lonely? And they were kind of looking down at me and laughing at me like I was some weirdo. And I was just kind of saying, like, leave me alone. If I don't want to get married, what's it to you? If I don't want to have kids, if I don't want to have your life, like, I'm happy on my own. Like, so I've never shamed anyone who wants to get married or have kids, or wants, you're gay or you're a monk or whatever you want to do. I don't care if you cover yourself in jelly and sort of, you're into bestiality or something. I don't care. Do what you want to do, as long as you got consent from the animal. But what I would say is that if it's important to you, if you want to get married and you want to be a father, I would encourage you to go about it as best you can. If you know that your life will be empty and you'll be sort of living a third-rate life and feeling like you're wasting your time, and it's kind of, you could be living to an 8 or a 10 in life, but you've just submitted to a very safe 4. But you know that all it takes is a bit of calculated risk and a little bit of courage, and you can maybe get what you want. And if you don't, you'll fail, but you can pick yourself up and regroup again. Again, the poker analogy. Don't go all in like an idiot who doesn't know how to play poker. Learn how to play poker well, and then go to the table with however much money and chips you're willing to lose. So then you can continue doing it and playing poker more professionally if that's what you want to do. But you're never homeless. You can always regroup, recover, and play better. But if you don't want to play, don't. If you have no interest in poker, don't date, don't play poker. I am originally from India, but I notice whether it's India, Arab countries, everywhere, the men are treated worse than are treated in the West. Surprise. I've heard that too. Everyone from the West thinks the guys from the Middle East have it right, like their women are submissive. That they are to an extent, but men are working all the time and they have very little power. A woman's money is her own, but the man's money is hers and the family's. So they have a lot of power. Here, there's a big Middle Eastern community, and even you see on the billboards, there's kind of financial institutions just for the Islamic community. Like, so they're your perception from the outside might be very, very different. If you're into it, that's your religion, fair enough, do what you want. But your concept of marriage, I would say, if you know what works for you, whether it's religious or it's not, and you know what's fair, whether it's religious or it's not, have the kind of life you want. And when you go on dates, make sure you make friends with a person that's on the same page and they're consistently on the same page as you, religious or otherwise. And then if you want to start a life with them, if you want to have a family with them, that's a good grounding that you can trust. As much as you can trust anything. Again, there's a small chance of something going wrong up in the future. But if the person's been consistent for like years or months before you've even gotten started to commit and go forward, just to sort of see if the person's consistent and doesn't change their values. They were a person that was patient and calm, and then all of a sudden after the honeymoon period, they lose their temper and now they're slightly different. And it's like, where did this character come from? And then they tell you, oh yeah, I was on meds. I didn't want to tell you. Oh yeah, I didn't want to tell you this before. Oh, this is something I probably should have told you before. It's like, well, nah, this won't do. You should have told me everything. I knew everything about my missus, and she knew everything about me within the first few months as we started to see we were compatible and we wanted to see if there was a future between us. So rip the Band-Aid off without revealing your credit card details. I'm not saying be naively trusting, but be objectively open, where if it doesn't work, you rip the Band-Aid off. All you have is mild loss and a bit of, you might feel humiliated. Oh, well, sorry, that didn't turn out. That's a shame. That feels kind of crappy, but you can just move on without being haunted by it ever again. But you have to not be scared from a 5-year-old's point of view that mummy's going to devastate your world if things go wrong. But you need to have the grown-up's point of view that even if I lose this person that I hope it goes, she could be the one maybe, it doesn't matter. I'm experiencing the loss of an adult, not experiencing the loss of a 5-year-old. Might take practice, but go out there and have a bit of courage and date with intent. And not naively from the point of view, there's nothing I can do. It's all up to luck and biology if we magically end up together and married and have kids. Sorry, but you're going to be left with the responsibility, whether you you say, well, God did this. I don't believe in protection, and I just come inside women, and if a baby develops, it's kind of like it's God's will. It's not. It's not. It was yours. You're sort of you're leaving the responsibility to people or things or beliefs that they're not going to take responsibility. You are. You know what? You might think that God did this, but again, full respect to you if you believe in that. But if you're mildly responsible, I think someone who's got a good head on their shoulders can believe in God and say, well, when I have sex, and I don't use protection, and if a baby develops and there's no contraception, it's not, oh, magically, how did this happen? It was magic. It was from the clouds. It's like, no. I'm pretty sure if one of you got cancer or you had a tumor or something, you would be going to hospital and getting it operated and getting it removed. You wouldn't just say well, no, never going to hospital. I'm never getting that mole removed. I'm never getting anything. I never go to the doctors, ever. It's like, yes, you do. I see every religion at the doctors all the time. Every religion. So, whatever. I am blabbing a lot today. I think it's generated by the questions. Really good questions, guys. Are there any more questions left before we wrap this thing up? Yeah, Williams Russell, he says, where is he? He says, should I attend a singles event purely for educational purposes or boycott the whole thing? The first thing I thought of is someone really forcing you to go to a singles event? If you want to go, just admit it, and just make sure you have your limitations. I don't attend social events for anthropological reasons. Now, I'm not David Attenborough. I can look on videos if I've got that kind of curiosity, but I won't go to that kind of effort unless you want to see if there's any possibilities there. But yeah, why not? I don't know. Anyhow, any last questions in the stream? If you want to ask me a question during this stream, add 3 smiley faces before your question, or super chat me like a few generous people have this stream, and I will answer them before the end. We're going to wrap up soon, so any last questions, shoot them to me with smiley faces or super chats in the next 1 to 5 minutes, and I'll do my best to answer any civil questions. Okay. Elusive Man says, what's your opinion on the bill to remove lifetime alimony being in Florida and the female hysteria? Good. They should have removed alimony a long time ago. I think and they won't, because they make so much money from divorces. All the money's made through divorces. Virtually nothing, very, very little compared to divorces is made in the marriage. So I really believe that 2 people should be able to get out of a marriage on their own like they got in. Sorry, 2 people should be able to get into a relationship on their own like they got, just like they should be able to get out of it. So I'm all for it. Bobby Barrow says, do you think relationships are affected more by personal circumstances or social expectations? I would say a bit of both, depending. There's no clear-cut answer, but I could see both playing a large or small part depending on your social expectations. If you've got parents that are very open-minded and they let you live your life and they didn't sort of strangle you with their expectations, they let you do whatever, then you don't have much social expectation or personal. But if your parents are on your back, they want you to get married. If you're very religious and you're Muslim and you can't come out to people and say you're gay, or, it depends how much of the pie you are in one aspect to another, given your upbringing and where you've been brought up and your family and friends. Tom says, human people who are religious and don't use contraception will monitor things like mucus layer thickness, etc. Natural contraception. There are 1000% of separation between fundamentalists and religion. Yeah. Although, yeah, I haven't looked into it enough, but I have, without making light of it, again, you do you, But if you don't use contraception and your scientific, quasi-scientific approach is mucus thickness as a way to sort of say, well, no, you won't get pregnant, dear, because of your mucus, or my mucus is fairly thin, or, oh, look, I've got a headache. Don't worry, you won't get pregnant now. I remember a funny one. This is no joke. When I was in my 20s, I overheard two Lebanese guys talking, and he was leaning on his car, and he was saying to his mate, you get about like he slept with a girl without using contraception, and the other guy was saying like, oh, be careful, bro. No jokes. He said like, don't worry, bro. Like, she can't get pregnant. I had a kebab. And I was thinking, that's got to be a joke, but I didn't stick enough around long enough to kind of tell if this person was that dumb or if they were going to laugh afterwards. But that was the funniest comment I heard. Don't worry, you won't get pregnant. I had a kebab. So, any last comments or super chats? Let's see. It doesn't look like there's any. This was a fun stream, guys. I really enjoyed it. So, let's see. Okay. Prince Revolver, he left a message under an older video. The older video I did called When You Pretend She Cares. Prince Revolver said, this easily might be the biggest mistake men make, pretending she cares so you can justify being with her. Be careful that you're not objectively reading cues. Try and train yourself to, no matter how you feel, step outside yourself and observe the interaction from your friend's perspective, for instance, or from a neutral. Like if you're able to kind of astral project out of yourself and look at this interaction, like the two of you, or in memory after the date, like try and observe the interaction, not from your eyes, but if you could kind of view it as a person looking at the both of you at a table and the conversation you were having. It's really useful. All right. Doesn't sound like there's any more questions, guys. We have been going for nearly 2 hours. This was a good one. It didn't feel like 2 hours. Leave your comments, super chat, like, subscribe. If you've got a microphone, jump on my, not Discord. I still have a Discord, but that's for people I trust and I know. But jump on my public Gilded server, links below. If you have a microphone, learn how to use Gilded. And I might see you there there's a whole bunch of people that get together for a chat. Last week, there was a good bunch of people and we had a bit of a chat. So jump on there with your microphone if you have one. Boffin usually is there, a whole bunch of people. And I'll probably join you in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to wrap up and have a drink. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. And yeah, have a good weekend and I'll catch you soon. And remember, if there's one thing you take away from this is most of our problems with relationships come from avoidance. And the solution is confront. First you, then other people. It's easier to confront other people for their bad behavior when you can confront yourself for bad behavior as well. So anyway, take that. I'll see you soon on Gilded and I'll see the rest of you in the next stream or video. Have a good weekend. Later.